The Great Rift Valley. Things have happened here that happened nowhere else. That's the underlying truth to this place. Within its walls, our species evolved, civilizations rose and collapsed. And there's an even bigger drama at play, the birth and death of oceans. It's all due to the impact of tectonics. Geologist Nick Iles is on a quest to explore its power. From the cradle of humanity to the hottest place on Earth, to the ruins of the oldest civilizations and the bedrock of some of the world's modern religions. A journey along the rift.
There's something primeval being up there and looking down into the depths of the earth. Holy cow! It's an absolutely fantastic experience, not just as a scientist, but as a human being.
This is the East African Rift, one part of the Great Rift Valley that stretches from Mozambique to Turkey. It's a special place for humankind. Embedded in these cliffs, packed between layers of volcanic ash, is the story of our origin.
The rift system is our natural home, as it were. That's where humans evolved. We developed in association with volcanoes and faults, earthquakes. So it's a great view of where we originated. The whole landscape is covered with great thicknesses of ash, which is a good thing because those ash layers entomb the remains of early humans and their ancestors, and they provide precise marker horizons of time.
Ever since Darwin suggested that humans share common ancestors with African apes, scientists have searched for further clues. The only place they found fossils that link directly to modern humans is in this long, narrow valley. The intriguing question is why? It's geologists who think they've found the answer. Canadian geologist Nick Iles seeks to understand how human history is linked to the geology of the Great Rift Valley. He begins his journey in Kenya to explore the theory that the rift was the catalyst for human evolution. He meets German geologist Martin Trout. Trout has spent his career dating sediments and cross-referencing them with evolutionary changes. He's concluded that each step in our evolution coincided with the appearance or disappearance of large lakes in the rift basin.
If you have major events in human evolution occurring at the time where we have large lakes everywhere, that's probably an evidence for that there should be a link between climate and environmental changes and the evolution of early humans.
So if large lakes were the key to human origins, what happened when these lakes disappeared?
When they've disappeared, probably they have to change dramatically the strategy to find food in the environment. But these lakes, they reappear in cycles, and so that makes them very good for humans to survive as they are generalists.
The frequent environmental changes drove our ancestors to evolve ways to better adapt to new landscapes and diets. Here at Kariandusi, Trout has studied a particular lake deposit called diatomite that dates back 1 million years.
This is actually a lake sediment. It consists of millions and trillions of skeletons from little plants.
As the lake dried up, early humans left traces of their lives, hand axes embedded in the walls of the gorge.
So what uniquely defines a Chilean hand axe?
The Olduvai tools are just very, very simple, round-shaped kind of hammers. Nothing else. And these ones are really for cutting meat.
We see the development of stone tools about 2 million years ago and the development of human brains. And to me, that's not coincidental. You've got to find the rock. You've got to know what rock type make good tools. You've got to communicate that to others. You need a social organization to manufacture those stone tools. To me, that was the first industrial revolution because it required manufacturing on a huge scale.
To understand why this revolution happened, it's necessary to delve deep into the tectonic story of the Rift Valley.
Geologists come to the East African Rift because it's the largest tear affecting any plate on the planet. It's a huge wound which is opening up.
That wound arose because the African plate lies above a huge plume of magma that's slowly melting the crust, causing it to stretch or rift. On the edges of warmed rock, high shoulders rise up. In the middle, the floor subsides, forming a rift. "3 million years ago, repeated rapid swings of climate from wet to dry caused huge lakes to form and suddenly disappear. Combined with frequent volcanic eruptions and earthquakes, our ancestors faced unbelievable odds. For Nick, it's part of a greater truth that he's exploring, that the Great Rift Valley is unique. Things happen here that happen nowhere else. One of the great findings of geology over the past 40 years is that oceans come and go as supercontinents form and break up. But how do continents split? And how do new oceans form? To find the answer, Nick comes here, the Afar Depression in Ethiopia. The Afar Depression is one of the most dramatic landscapes on Earth. Few people live here, and even fewer visit. But to geologists like Nick Iles, it's Shangri-La.
This is a fantastic place to be because we're driving along the middle of the East African Rift, where the African plate is literally being torn in two. And Africa is over here, the Somalia plate is on my right, and they're moving apart. And the rift between the two is slowly subsiding.
This tectonic process has been underway for 30 million years. But the Afar is so remote that its significance has eluded geologists until recently. For Nick, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. His ultimate destination, a volcano called Erta Ale, or Smoking Mountain in the local language. To get there, he must first cross the Danakil Desert.
This is a serene landscape. These are enormous lava flows which have come down from the margins of the rift from these big volcanoes. very fluid lava extending for many kilometers down slope. But here they've been broken up by faults. It's absolutely amazing. It's just geology happening before one's eyes.
The next morning, the tarmac ends. Nick's transported back in time. Salt is the livelihood of many tribal people living in the Danakil. It's mined by hand, packed on camels, and sold in markets a 3 days' walk away. On some days, 1,000 camels will plod by here.
Camel trains have been taking salt from the Danakil Depression down there below sea level all the way up to the highlands for centuries, and I've just seen it. It's as if the modern world never existed.
Next stop, Nick goes even further back in time to the dawn of life. This is the Dalal crater, a volcano whose summit is still below sea level. The crust here is incredibly thin, the magma close to the surface. What's unique about this place is that this volcanic activity is interacting with very thick salt deposits. Early life may have thrived in environments like these 4 billion years ago.
First to arrive are the hot fluids migrating up above the magma. And then puncturing the salt are these beautiful little industrial pots. The hot water's coming up, bringing sulfur-bearing minerals, beautiful colors, and there's bacteria, very simple, blue-green bacteria in there that love these hot waters.
These simple, colorful bacteria are Earth's oldest life form.
And this may be a glimpse into early Earth. This whole area is underlain by what's referred to as a mantle plume, which is a huge mass of red-hot plastic rock which is rising up from the mantle, impinging on the base of the African plate and pushing it apart, splitting it into two. As we go further out in the Afar Depression, we go below sea level. And at the moment, the ocean is only prevented from flooding into this area by volcanoes. Eventually, they will subside under the great weight of all the volcanic rock, and the sea will burst in here.
In 2005, volcanic eruptions and earthquakes rocked the Afar Depression. Fissures opened up, and large flows of black basalt lava flooded the landscape, creating crust of a new ocean floor. Nick crosses paths with a group of scientists from Britain, trying to explain why that new ocean is forming here. They use seismometers to track the numerous earthquakes that hit the Afar. Each quake corresponds to the injection of molten rock into the crust, slowly splitting the continent in two.
So how many of these do you have across the Afar?
In total, I think there's somewhere around 45, but that's combined between UK seismometers and US seismometers.
The moment of truth. In this particular area, the main axis of the rift is Erta Ale and Tat Ale volcanoes. And then it steps dramatically to the west and then further to the south. So there's a well-defined rift axis.
So you're right at the beginning of this whole new ocean.
Yeah. Along the areas where the rift axis steps dramatically, there are aligned cones perpendicular to the axis of the rift. So it's possible that the strain is transferred by volcanic intrusion rather than transform faults like we see in mid-ocean ridges.
With each geologic event, the Afar Depression evolves. But seeing the process with eyes instead of instruments requires getting to Erta Ale. Easier said than done.
Well, this is the road up to Erta Ale. We're actually crossing the lava fields. It's just a simple track. And this is a vehicle that's broken down. It's lost a bolt out of the steering, and we stopped to help out. And ironically, we just passed a camel train taking grain over to Eritrea, and they're making much better progress than we are.
Nick is now 20 kilometers from the volcano. His guide, Solomon Berhe, takes him to meet some remarkable people in a village called Ali Abdallah.
So what's it like living on a huge sea of lava?
እንዴት ነው እዚህ በጣም ድንጋይ ነው እንዴት ትኖራላችሁ?
كبدل.
It's very difficult, tough life. They have been here for 10 years. This is a station for their family. But they move their animals from place to place.
Do they ever consider moving away from this area?
بوتا يهدال.
When there is rain, Erta Ale area, there is grass. So he takes his goat and his camel to that area. They discovered it's not dangerous. Now they believe it doesn't flow. So that's why they live here.
I'm amazed that people can survive here, living literally on lava. There's no soil. We've seen children running around in bare feet on hot rock. It's absolutely amazing. This is their home. And there have been people living here for millions of years because this is where some of the earliest pre-hominid fossils have been found. So there's a continuity of life here in an extremely arid, hostile environment.
Finally, Erta Ale. It's not very high or impressive because it's a shield volcano. Shield volcanoes don't explode. Instead, the lava is very fluid and flows like blood across the landscape. The truck can't make it to the crater. The gear goes on camels. Nick and Berhe go on foot.
So do you get excited every time you come up?
Oh yeah, I do. Except not shift.
That's amazing, look at it. A bloody great sea of lava. Incredible. Enormous volumes flooding out over into the depression all the way through here.
Yeah.
Amazing volumes.
Fantastic.
Wow.
You know now, Dr. Nick, I'm going to take you to the old crater where still it has a smoke.
So this is all the source of all the grey lava flows, the ones
Yes.
that come out of it.
It came out from this one.
Oh. It's another crater, but
Yeah, it's
dead. So it's just degassing now, right? It's sitting there doing nothing.
It is, yeah.
This is the final stage when a volcano dies. So it's bringing up sulfur, and we get this tremendous outgassing. These gases are actually cooking the rock. This was hard lava just a few years ago, but it's now really rotten. And it's been rotted by gas coming up through it. So this is a very important stage of volcanic activity because it's bringing up precious minerals.
Erta Ale's other crater is still alive, and active lava lakes are extremely rare. There are only 4 in the world.
This is the holy grail for me because I've never seen fresh lava in a lake before. So this is Volcanoes Central.
The 30-minute hike to the lava lake is dangerous. Berhe wants to avoid the heat of the day, but still get there before sunset.
This is pretty unstable, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Especially at dark. It's very dangerous.
Yeah, and now we're on one of the main lava flows. This is interesting here. We've got this younger, dark-colored flow sitting on top of that lighter brown-colored one.
So you mean the brown is older?
Yeah. See the black one sitting on it?
Yeah.
The darker the lava, the more recent the eruption that spewed it out.
This is like walking on thin ice. It looks quite solid, but it's actually just a very thin skin, which was insulating red-hot lava streaming through as tunnels underneath and feeding the fronts of the flows. So you've got to be very careful moving over these in case you drop right through into one of these open tunnels. Holy cow! Will you just look at that? That's incredible. That's amazing. It took 3 days to get here, 40-degree temperatures. How many dozen bottles of water? And it's worth it. Wow. You see the cooled skin and the upwelling magma between them. It's like plate tectonics. Well, geologists are always looking for small-scale examples to explain bigger global picture. And here we've got a perfect example of plate tectonics on a small scale. And we can see dark grey rafts, which are like continents, separated by bright red rifts where new magma is coming up, forcing those continents apart. And what's happening every now and again are huge bubbles of sulfur dioxide coming up from depth. That's the closest we'll come to actually looking at the Earth's mantle. There's something primeval being up there, and we're looking down into the depths of the Earth. It's an absolutely fantastic experience, not just as a scientist, but as a human being. That's amazing.
What Nick saw on a micro scale in the lava lake is writ large across the Danakil.
I've seen a lot of rocks and landscapes around the world, but this is the clearest example I've ever seen of this sort of tectonic setting. We can see these long, dark cracks down here running into the distance. Through that little volcano, there's a crater there, and then the big guy in the distance. And this is marking the edge of the African plate on my left and the Somalian plate on the right. The two are moving apart as a result of magma coming up along these fissures, which is pushing the plates apart. It's absolutely fantastic.
In 10 million years, the expanse in front of Nick will be transformed into an ocean. It's a testament to the power of plate tectonics. Nick now leaves the Afar and goes north through the Ethiopian highlands to explore how the rift's geology inspired some of the world's first civilizations. This stream will widen into one of the most fabled rivers in the world.
The Nile River is a direct product of precipitation over the Ethiopian highlands, and that's been likened to the water tank of Africa. Rainfall flows to the west and then north. So without the rift, there would be no Nile River.
From Ethiopia, Nick follows the Nile into Egypt. To both the east and west is desert, but through this valley oasis came early humans migrating out of Africa. 6,000 years ago, this valley saw the beginning of one of the world's first civilizations. It was a society shaped by the river, dependent on its seasonal floods.
Over there you see the Nilometer for the measuring of the water by the steps which are found in the Nile meter going down to the water, and the marks in the wall.
Measuring the height of the river enabled the priests to predict potential flood levels and to gauge what land could be cultivated.
So they could predict the floods from this. If it was high, it was going to be a good flood.
Yes.
Everybody's going to make a lot of money, so they could tax more.
Yes.
If it was low, then they were going to have a hard time, and you couldn't tax them as much.
Exactly. Because this is the main source of the income for the priests and the king.
And it's from this simple instrument, as crude as it seems, that they got their power.
And that power was expressed in huge stone structures.
We see this beautiful evolution in man's relationship with the planet, in winning stone, working stone, and building these lasting monuments. So I refer to ancient Egypt as a second industrial revolution.
The power of what was called Upper Egypt rested here, the Temple of Luxor.
This is my favorite statue in the whole of Egypt. It's one massive block of black Aswan granite depicting Ramses II. Running throughout it are these beautiful dikes of pink granite. It's a wonderful example of granite as sculpture. These columns are huge, aren't they? And they resemble giant papyrus.
That's right.
The columns represent papyrus reeds, the symbol of Upper Egypt.
Now, how on earth would they have been built?
Blocks, mud bricks, blocks, and so, step by step, until arrival to the end of the column.
So they would have hauled the blocks up, put it on top of the previous one, up a
That's
ramp
right.
made out of mud bricks.
You understand?
So at one time, all this would have been full of mud,
That's right.
and then they take the mud out and start carving the columns down.
That's right.
You know, I've been looking for many years for depictions of the actual people that sweated and toiled building these temples, and here it is at last. There's a central pylon, and you can see people climbing up ladders. There's teams of people with ropes, pulling on the ropes. And here at last is a picture of the very people that built these temples.
Ancient Egypt was so firmly rooted in the detailed knowledge of the region's geology that it's been called a state of stone. This sandstone quarry has been worked for thousands of years.
To be honest, as a geologist, I find this rather dull and boring. I can't find sedimentary structures, fossils, or color variation that tells me about how this rock was deposited. I know it was deposited in a very shallow seaway with an abundant supply of sand. But that's the point. What I find uninteresting as a geologist is a delight to the stonemasons. They could easily carve this into flat slabs for the front of the temples, and what's more, it was perfect for developing the art of hieroglyphics.
The most prized monuments from ancient Egypt are obelisks, made of a specific red granite found near the city of Aswan. Everyone from the Romans to Napoleon spirited them out of Egypt. One obelisk, however, never made it out of the quarry.
This is the unfinished obelisk at Aswan, and they were going for a world record when they were trying to win this one out of the quarry.
This 1,100-ton piece of red granite is 42 meters long, a third larger than any obelisk ever erected.
Well, the Aswan granite is naturally fractured, and like carpenters working with grain in wood, the Egyptian stonemasons were very good in utilizing these giant fractures, and this beautiful smooth wall is a fracture that runs the length of the quarry. You can still see surveyor marks on the side walls. In this deep trench that runs along the side of the obelisk, we can see how they would have released this. They would have lit a fire along the length of the trench, heated the rock up, throwing water on the heated rock, which would have fractured it, and then they would have used dolerite. This is a mole, much harder rock than a granite, and they would have used that to excavate all the softened rock. And by all accounts, this represents about a year's work. But of course, it was all for naught. Well, this is the reason why the unfinished obelisk is still sitting in the quarry. These are cracks that appeared just when they were starting to lever off the obelisk. And normally they were pretty good at winning out huge blocks between joints that affect the whole granite system here. But because it was so long, they'd actually stepped over some joints and they suddenly opened up. So really, they were defeated by plate tectonics.
What's remarkable about the ancient Egyptians is not just their expertise in stone building. They were also the first to develop a highly sophisticated religion based on a belief in eternal life.
It's an interesting example of where a new science, in this case geology, has arisen out of a religion and the need for immortality and lasting memorials. So it's a profound change in the way man related to the planet. They were burrowing away in the universe mentally in terms of their religion, but they're also burrowing away in the ground and profoundly changed the way man views rocks. So they developed the first geological maps 3,000 years ago. They're very accurate. They developed mines. They sent out huge prospecting parties, 10,000 people strong, to find minerals. It was all out of the need for immortality.
Nick says goodbye to Egypt and travels to a section of the rift where volcanic activity along the floor of the sea has caused the valley to spread so much that it's formed a new ocean.
This is a young ocean. It will widen. It's pushing the Arabian plate behind us away, pushing Africa the other way. And eventually this will grow up into an adult ocean, like, say, the modern Atlantic Ocean. So it's that intrusion of volcanic material all the time which is the driver for plate tectonics.
From here, Nick enters the Dead Sea Rift, a deep-sided valley where the Arabian Plate slides past the Sinai-Israel Plate. It's a geological time bomb that has already leveled ancient cities and threatens to do so again.
This is classic Lawrence of Arabia country, classic topography. This is the Arabian Plate, which has been deeply bitten into by erosion. These rifted plate margins, where one plate is moving past another one, are extremely dangerous areas because they produce large numbers of earthquakes. And this area has been densely settled for thousands of years. There's a rich historic record of earthquakes. So this area is of real interest to geologists and archaeologists looking at the relationship between large earthquakes and civilizations.
Nick teams up with one of the top scientists in the realm of earthquake study, Israeli geologist Shmuel Marco. Marco combines archaeology and history with his own geological findings in order to build a database of earthquake activity in the Middle East.
These are 2,000-year-old inscriptions.
Yeah, Nabatean inscription.
They've come to the fabled city of Petra. 2,000 years ago, it was the trade capital of the Nabateans. Goods from as far away as China and Rome passed through here. But it's the Nabateans' extraordinary use of rock that the scientists find intriguing.
So this grand entrance into Petra is along a very narrow crack.
It's a crack that was widened by erosion of water.
The Sik, as it's called, was originally a small fracture formed when the Arabic plate split from the African plate.
So that Dead Sea Rift was key to the formation of Petra.
Yes, it formed the relief here, the topography. Without this, you'd have a flat surface as it was before the rift formed.
So it's truly a tectonic city. The grand opening.
Yeah, this is the first impression that you get when you come to Petra. They took advantage of a crack in the rock.
Around 500 AD, Petra was abandoned. All that is left today are the palaces, temples, and tombs carved into the rock faces. What was built between the valley walls is a mystery. Was it destroyed by earthquakes? Ancient cities are often built on the remains of earlier structures destroyed by war, fire, or some kind of natural calamity. Fallen columns, bulging walls, and rubble provide clear evidence of ancient earthquakes. These are the ruins of Petra's grand temple.
So the trick is to positively identify earthquake damage, but also accurately date it, isn't it?
Yes, for example, here, look at this. We know that the building was constructed in the Nabatean period. The columns are so robust that there is no way that they fall naturally without a horizontal push. We have been recording earthquakes using modern seismographs only in the past century or so. This is not enough time for studying earthquakes because the recurrence is much longer than a century. So in order to study earthquakes prior to this instrumental period, we use fallen buildings. Cities are a treasure for earthquake geologists. And these columns buried coins that were dated up to 361 AD. And coins were found also in Aqaba. So we know that the earthquakes affected Aqaba and Petra at the same time. And we combine this with historical reports from northern Israel and northern Jordan and Syria. And we know that it was the May 19th, 363. We don't know the time of the day, but we know the date. That's very rare in geology. And that's an advantage to using history and archaeology combined. So the widespread damage really shows that it was a major earthquake, probably magnitude 7 or above. If it happened today, it would be disaster.
From Petra, Nick goes north into the land of Canaan, the modern-day Israel.
Well, I'm currently floating in the Dead Sea at 420 meters below sea level. One of the saltiest places on the planet because we're along the Dead Sea Rift. There's Israel over there, there's Jordan over there on the other side of the rift. They're both moving northwards, but they're moving at different rates. So this area is slowly being pulled apart.
The Dead Sea has been much higher in the past. Thick sediments, now exposed, are a treasure trove for geologists.
So these are bottom deposits of an ancient Dead Sea, but we're much higher than the modern level.
The lake, the Dead Sea, which is a small lake now, extended for 220 kilometers from the Sea of Galilee all the way to the middle of the Arava Valley.
This is the Lizan Formation. It's where Shmuel Marco began his research on earthquakes as a graduate student. And he's got evidence to show Nick of the Dead Sea's violent past.
So it's pretty unusual to get a nice record on land, isn't it?
Yes, it's very unique.
These are very fine laminations. Now, I presume you've measured the thickness of each one of these all the way down.
Yes, yes, we have very, very detailed record of every little variation in the deposition. We see white ones and dark ones.
The alternating layers record seasonal flows into the ancient Dead Sea.
This fine lamination is there undisturbed unless you shake it. And during earthquake, this nice layering is disrupted and sometimes broken, and it's deposited again. So when we look up the section, we look for layers that are disrupted.
In this rock face, which records the last 50,000 years, Marco has found disruptions representing 30 separate earthquakes.
We show with this record that earthquakes come in clusters. So we have 10,000 years of intense activity and then 10,000 years of less intense activity.
Marco's conclusion? The 21st century will be very seismically active.
The Earth's surface is shifting all the time. There's no one part of the Earth's surface which is stable. Most places are moving at several centimeters a year. There are earthquakes globally, but the big issue is what risk do these pose for modern cities, modern people?
The region is rich in historic and tectonic events. Some are recorded in biblical texts, some by the ruins of past cultures. All are recorded in the geology. Masada. It lies right along the edge of the Dead Sea Rift, 400 meters high, surrounded by valleys. A setting which made the fort a near impregnable stronghold for Jewish rebels fighting the Romans in the 1st century AD.
So this is a Roman camp here, another one over there.
Up on the hill.
Instead of surrendering, the Jews committed mass suicide. But there's a geological subtext to that history for Nick to see. The fort was originally built by King Herod, but abandoned when the city was largely destroyed by an earthquake.
You've got 3 lines of evidence regarding an ancient earthquake, don't you?
Yes, we have archaeological evidence in the form of fallen walls. All the walls here used to be part of the storage area for King Herod. You see the courses still aligned, but fallen. They fell in the earthquake of 31.
Traces of the same earthquake are recorded in deformed sediments found in the Lizan Formation, providing geological, archaeological, and historical evidence of the timing of the event. It took 3 years for the Romans to breach Masada. The earthquake would have taken mere seconds. The destruction of Masada was matched in severity by another earthquake that flattened the ancient city of Hippos.
So how do people explain earthquakes then?
It was the wrath of God, obviously. I think each place has its own myth and legends about earthquakes. Although only in the late 19th century and in the early 20th century did people realize that earthquakes are actually a rupture of the crust of the earth.
The Dead Sea Valley illustrates the scale of these events, each earthquake further tearing the rift apart. It looks innocuous, but the Jordan River flows right along the edge of the Israeli and Arabian plate boundaries. The scene may seem peaceful, but the river divides some of the most disputed territory on the planet, both now and in the distant past. This ruin was once a Crusader fortress. Its history tells both of war and geology.
So this wall is excellent evidence of an ancient rupture along the Dead Sea Rift.
Certainly, the wall was built straight here. And after an earthquake, we find it over there. So we know exactly how much it moved, and with combination of history and archaeology, we know exactly when. We know that the foundation stone was laid in October 1178, and the earthquake was May 20, 1202. And it's incomparable to any other earthquake that we are aware of.
The 1202 earthquake was reported as far away as Iraq, Sicily, Turkey, and Egypt. It was the largest earthquake to hit the Middle East in the last 3,000 years. And the fault system lies directly below this fortress.
So you and I are standing on completely different tectonic plates, aren't we?
Yeah, you are on the Israel or Sinai plate, and I'm on the Arabian plate.
Now, this hasn't moved subsequently. Does this mean that the two plates that you and I are standing on are locked?
Probably, yes, yes. Our estimate is that about 4 meters of slip are missing. It's a lot. It's like an earthquake of magnitude 7 point something. It's a major one. We are missing a major earthquake here. And it will certainly strike one of the major cities.
There's a consensus among geologists that there will be another earthquake soon.
All the large cities of the region are within the damage zone of potential future earthquake. And earthquakes would not discriminate. They will hit Syrians, Israelis, Jordanians, Palestinians, Lebanese, all the same.
The East African Rift nurtured our emergence as a species, saw the first civilizations. Now, it's a threat to the many cities along its length. Understanding the history and dynamics of the rift is fundamental to understanding our past and our future. Nick's journey ends on the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. And like everything else he's seen, it too confronts unstoppable geological forces.
The African plate is being driven north several centimeters a year up against the backstop of Europe. So what we see now as water will be dry land in 10 or 20 million years' time. One of the big revelations in geology has been understanding that the Earth's surface was not made the way we see it today. It's undergone these profound changes because oceans have a life cycle. They're born, they widen, and they die.
To people who can read the rocks, the Great Rift Valley illuminates the power of that tectonic cycle better than any place on Earth.